What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more. We got a lot to talk about. We are going to do some short-term stuff and long-term analysis as well for Paul Parker. I'm going to try to stay on track mentally for this video. And let's get started without any further ado. Let's do this. So yes, we had a hell of a drop yesterday. I've personally been calling for prices to go around 62 to 61K with a real heavy emphasis on that 62K area, and we just blasted right through that, man. We went as low as $58,500. And we've recovered pretty quickly. You know, like we weren't down there for too long. If we look at this on a 4-hour perspective, we just basically tanked, and then we've had a nice recovery with decent volume to back it up too. 4-hour RSI doesn't look great, to be completely fair, but it could be in a position where it could start to look great if we continue to grow, not just today but over the coming days. I think it's very important that we do grow for the remainder of today and get back above 62K. If we take this low here to a high, we broke through the 618, the golden ratio right here on the Fibonacci sequence of this range. We broke through the golden ratio on the first attempt. Generally speaking, whenever I see this, whenever I see you just tear through the 618 and not respect it at all, I look for extensions, okay? And these are the extensions that I look for, these first three. Those are the kind of expected extensions that I go for. This is at 53K at a minimum to 48.7K at the maximum, right? So if we want to avoid this, and I think I can speak for all of us when I say we want to avoid this. Some people, you know, I think the smarter move would actually be wanting the price to go down there, because then you could just buy everything at cheaper prices if you would assume that the prices would recover, right? I mean, if you think it could go down here and then still see higher prices, wouldn't you want it to go down there? You could just buy phenomenally cheaper, not just on Bitcoin, but everything else. But if you want to avoid this, is what I'm trying to say, then what we need to do today, it needs to happen, right? Within the next, we have 19 hours, 55 minutes left in the day. Today, we need to get back above the 618. We need to kind of show that this move here is not valid. And the best way to do that is to get back above this very key level at the 618 here at 62K. And it might not be a key level on an overall price perspective, but it is a key level on this fib range right here. If we look at this from a high to a low, I wonder if there's anything. We closed right at the 236. That's actually that's not bad. Closing below it would have not been good, but closing right at it is not bad. Closed right at these previous lows here. Previous lows here, previous low there, closing out a relative area of support in this range nonetheless. Definitely gives me hope that that could have been a low, that might have been the low that we've been waiting for such a long time. You guys, this is nuts. This is insane. 4.6% for Bitcoin, right? That's not the insane part. That's how much we closed from an open to a closing basis. That's how much of a difference to the downside that we closed at, right? The insane part to me is that the crypto fear and greed index dropped off a cliff. We went from 74 points last week on the Fear and Greed Index. It's from a 0 to a 100 scale. We're at 30 now. We're reading a 30. We're in the level of fear now. What's nuts is if you take the last 3 months, right? This is a year. This is a month. We're going to do a 3-month chart. This is the lowest that we've been on the crypto fear and greed index in the last 3 months. And if we look at Bitcoin for what it's worth, it's got a higher low. It's got a higher low. That's not even the lowest close that it's had, right? Let alone the lowest price that it's had throughout this whole range. And this low happened back in May, in the very beginning of May, right? We're in the end of June now, so that's within that 3-month time frame. People are more pessimistic now than they were back here, right? 43. That's still kind of fearful, right? It's below 50, but this is it's a total difference, man. We just dropped right off a cliff. And the price kind of did too, but you know, I definitely have hope that we could close above 62K today. And that's what it really would take to kind of soothe or calm my nerves. Even if we don't close above 62K today, I'm going to be honest, I'm not really too worried about the price or the overall aspects of the market. I do think we're going to continue to grow, and we will see new all-time highs soon enough, like really soon enough. It could be by the end of July, if not sometime in August is kind of what I'm thinking. I know that this Mt. Gox news is going around. I don't know how big of a deal it is, but I've had some people mention it in the YouTube comments, and it doesn't say how many specifically are going to get released, right? Let's see. They say the number of Bitcoins headed toward former customers is still not certain, but it could range from 65,000 Bitcoins to 140,000, worth nearly 9 billion at the upper end. So 9 billion there, that would be roughly 4.5 billion there, something like that, right? A little bit less, probably like 4 billion, whatever. Some Bitcoin holders are worried that distribution could lead to an increase in selling pressure. Price of Bitcoin drop, blah, blah, blah. This is on Investopedia. If you scroll down here, let's see, where is it? This person, what's her name or his name? Altana. I don't know if that's a typo or is it Altana Digital Currency Fund, CIO Alistair Milne. It's a guy, sounds like a guy. Mt. Gox creditors in need of funds, and weekends, have had 10 years to sell their claims. So they could probably, they might not have had access to their Bitcoins because they were hacked, but Mt. Gox could have paid them off, or like they, through other means, they could have gotten what they had in Bitcoin to pay. So essentially what he's saying is that the people that wanted to sell their Bitcoins, all these coins are going to get released from Mt. Gox. People are worried that they're going to sell on the open markets. He's saying that they've had 10 years to do that, more or less, not sell their Bitcoins on the open markets, but to be compensated for their losses, right? And essentially that means that there's probably no distressed or urgent sellers left. That's what he's saying. So that's something to note. I am going to be completely blunt, though. I don't care what kind of market it is, if it's a crypto market, if it's the stock market, if it's an asset of whatever kind. When things are locked up and they're finally available for sale, almost always there is selling pressure. I mean, any time that I've ever seen in my life, which I'm not old by any means, right? I am still young, but I've been doing technical analysis for 7 years. I've been involved with the crypto markets, actually over 7 years on the technical analysis aspect. But I've been doing crypto. I've been in crypto since 2015. Every time tokens are unlocked, there's a little bit of selling pressure. Now that doesn't mean that it's only going to get bigger, right? Because we could recover by the time these tokens are unlocked, these Bitcoins are unlocked, because that's going to be in. It doesn't say when it's going to happen. It just says in July. Mt. Gox, by the way, went down. Let's see, that's not it. In 2011, right? That's when it got hacked. So this has been over 10 years in the making, right? There are going to be some coins that people want to sell, right? They might not have panic sold, or they might not have wanted to get their money back through their claims or whatever, right? They might not have wanted compensation, and they just wanted to wait until their Bitcoins were unlocked. But those Bitcoins 11 years ago were worth dramatically less than they are now. People are probably going to take profits, right? People might use that money to change their lives or make their lives more comfortable. There will be a portion of people who do sell their Bitcoins during these unlocks. But I wouldn't be surprised if most people did hold, because if you think about it this way, out of this whole range that we're in right now, July is right here, okay? This is the 1st of July, right there, okay? I didn't draw the straightest line, but maybe I should just put a straight line on there. Let's do it. Put a straight line right there in July. July is right there. Out of this whole range, we're at the end of it. The coins are going to get released in July. We don't know if it's the beginning of July or the end of July. Maybe it is the beginning of July. I don't know. So we're just going to go off of this line. We're very near that month. We're at one of the lower points of this overall range. The institutions, right? There's been this. What's the word I'm looking for? The phrase I'm looking for. Narrative, and not even narrative, like a straight fact that the institutions are like the people who back these Bitcoin ETFs, they're swallowing up more Bitcoin by a large degree than we actually have that are being minted, mined, printed every day, right? The amount, in other words, the amount of demand through just the institutions, just these people backing these ETFs financially, right? That they are casting more demand than we even have supply. But I forget what the amount is, but it's something. It's like greater than. It might be like 4 times the amount, at least 2 times the amount. It's something nuts, right? These guys want Bitcoin, right? They definitely want Bitcoin. If anybody's wanting to sell their unlocked Mt. Gox coins at the lowest end of this range, I wonder who's going to pick it up, right? I'm sure it's going to get picked up by these people who are literally buying more than what we can currently produce in a day. On average, right? I'm not too worried about this at all. It's crazy to me that the crypto fear and greed index is at such a low reading. It says in the last 3 months, but man, that's the lowest reading we've had all year. We actually haven't seen a reading this low since September of 2023, literally to a T, a 30, the same as we are now. And that's it. We've been down here at this level twice in the last year. Let's actually look at that. Let's go back to September 12th, 2023. This is where we're going to switch into that long-term analysis. Okay, I went over the short-term stuff. We want to see it get above 62K today in the next 19 hours and 47 minutes now. We want to see that. Went over a little theory with the Mt. Gox stuff because I feel like that might be, I don't know if that's the driving narrative to what's bringing the price down. I would just say it's, I mean, I don't know. I have my own theories, I suppose, but I could be wrong. But I think there's people who drove the price down here intentionally so they could buy these Mt. Gox coins at a cheap price. That's my kind of assumption. It's not that people are fearful. There might be some people. I think there's a lot of probably noobs and just people who are new to the market, and it's not a bad thing. If you're new to the market, that's not a bad thing. But accept it. You're new to the market. You're going to be prone to more emotional triggers than people who've been in the markets for multiple cycles, right? You're going to be more prone to this. If this is your first time in the cycle, this drop right now, apparently for whatever reason, is worse than this drop was. And that's because it is more intense in a shorter amount of time. This took longer to achieve, don't get me wrong, but there's not more volume. We're at a higher low. Like there's really nothing to be concerned. I bet if we look at the weekly RSI, I mean, the weekly RSI is at a point right now where it could bounce off the 50. If we look at it for what it is, dude, it's a higher low, higher high. It looks like it's in a perfect channel upwards, actually, right? Like literally perfect. Like literally perfect. You can't, like, it's, I keep saying like. I'm going to stop saying like because I'm not a teenage girl. This week we're down here. If we're in the beginning of this week, right? It's the second day of this week being Tuesday. We have until Sunday to close. If we can close this week green, we actually will have a bounce right off of this area. Not to mention we're at the 50 area, a common area to bounce. We've bounced here before. We've bounced here before, right? We've even found resistance at these areas before. I'm not worried about the trajectory of this market at all. I think this is a perfect time to get in for sure. But it's crazy too, man. Look at that. Dramatically lower lows. Right, and all we have is higher lows. If this week closes just a little bit higher, technically this week would only need to close above 61,500 in order to have some hidden bullish divergence in order for this to look good. But let's go. I'm getting off track here. Let's go to that. What was it? It was September 12th, 2023. Let's go to that. Okay. What happened on September 12th, 2023? I'm sure the price was at a low point. We went way too far back. Okay, here we go. September 11th. There we go. Let's do it. So this was September 11th. September 12th was here. We had found our low. Not just a low, the low. It was the low of this whole... Look, it's actually kind of similar to what we're doing now, right? We had our first low... If you look at this for what it is, right? This is the whole consolidation range before we moved up. It was the consolidation range after we moved up here. We had our consolidation range. You know, I think this was that... I mean, I know this is that long phase where we were just moving sideways. People were bored. I definitely remember thinking the price was going to see a lower low at this point, but it didn't. We actually moved up. All I'm trying to say is it's a similar situation as to what we are now, being that we are at the same level in the Fear and Greed Index, literally the exact same level. And this is the second low, right? Not the first low, but the second low. The first low took way longer to achieve. The second low came right after this immense drop off, right? Immense drop off. And then we had the low close, like the lowest close that we saw since that low on a daily basis. And that was it. Then we didn't just skyrocket up, right? We didn't see this. It took some time, but from that low to the point that we really did start to move up, that was 16th of October, September, October, that was a whole month, right? And in a month from now, this Mt. Gox stuff is going to blow over, right? We might recover. People might get a little bit more rational. I'm sure there are people who are rational right now who are planning on buying, but it's just funny. Here we are, same kind of scenario. First low, second low. That's when we started to move up, right? Dramatic sell-off, not as dramatic. It took longer to achieve. First low, second low. Might be the point we start to move up. It took a long time to find this low. Didn't take as long to find this low. Same readings in that. I think it's kind of perfect. I don't know. This might be the right area to get in. But again, we want to see a move today, preferably above 62K. If we don't get above 62K today, that's nothing to get discouraged about. It would just look way better from a fib perspective to get above 62K, but fibs aren't all that matters. There's plenty of other things that matter. Let's go into the long term now that we've gotten that out of the way. We'll bump it out to the monthly. So for the long term with Bitcoin, essentially what I'm going to go over is where I think we're going to, how high I think we're going to get this cycle, and when, how long it'll take to get there. Okay, so when will the cycle come to an end? Where will the cycle come to an end? Those are the questions we want to answer. And I normally do my long-term analysis. I always kick it off with this, right? A lot of you who've seen the channel over the past year, you already know where I'm going with this. We take the first cycle high to the first cycle low. You hit your 2272. Okay, you found your all-time high at that point, right above your 2272. You pulled back to your 1618 golden extension, golden ratio right there, double bottomed off it, and then continued upwards. Okay, so that was from your first high to low, first cycle high to low, right? That's what we saw, 2272. This one here, from a high to a low point, actually we could put it at the first low because that's the move. It's a double bottom, so it doesn't matter. 2272 again just above it. We didn't stop right at it, but just above it, pretty damn near it, right? From the cycle high to cycle low, the 2272 extension was what was hit. This time, we didn't find support on the 1618. We found it just below, but we did tip it the second time during the COVID crash. Next one here, this is the only time we haven't seen the 2272, was the last cycle. From high to low, we hit the 1618. This time not as support, but as resistance. We double topped off it. We kind of did an inverse of what we did here, right? We found a double bottom on the 1618 as a bear market support, where here we found a double top on the 1618 as a bull market resistance. So just showing the significance of that 1618. Though two other cycles besides this past cycle, the other two cycles previous to this, we had seen that 2272 zone. I would at least expect, based off of what we've just seen, I would at least expect that the 1618 would be hit. Okay, so from the high point to a low point, that would be here at $173,800. Okay, roughly. It's not going to be the same number on every exchange, but that's the minimum target that I have. The maximum target, right? It's going to be not at the 2272, but just above it. The 2272 is at 462K, just above it, let's say 500K. So that's a nice round psychological number, both as a, around 100,000 number, but also it's the 500,000 mark, right? So I'm going to put this line at about 500K, right? Something like right there, because that's just above the 2272, which is what we've seen, not last cycle, but the two cycles beforehand. So this is our range. This is our range of where we're going to top out. 173,000 to 500,000. That's a big range, and I'm actually going to try to refine this a little bit to like 500. I don't know. Just pretend that's 500,000. But that's our range essentially. Okay, and maybe we do go slightly above 500K. I don't know. I do think that we have a solid chance of breaking 400K by the end of the cycle. But when will the cycle end is the next question, right? I'm going to go over some things that would suggest it ends toward the beginning of 2025, which I don't normally talk about, but I think it's worth addressing. And then also some things that would point to the end of 2025, which is what I personally think, but it's good to be aware of both. Okay, so first and foremost, actually we'll go over the long toward the end of 2025, and then we'll finish with maybe the beginning of 2025. Not to give the wrong ideas, but I think it'll flow better. So if we take this cycle high here to this cycle high, that took 29 months. If we take this cycle high to this cycle high, that took 49 months. Okay, it's getting longer. Okay. This cycle high here to the actual cycle high there, that's 47 months. So it's a little bit longer, or a little bit less time there, but 49 months, 47 months, that's pretty damn close, 29 months. I would assume that we're not going to see a 29-month cycle, and that in fact we would actually see a 49, 47-month cycle. I wonder, hold on. I think I was looking at this the other day. Is this what? Yeah, okay, so this is kind of cool, right? Because a lot of people, myself included, we generally count this as the first cycle high, right? Bull market, bear market. It's a very small bear market, very short bear market, but it was also a pretty short bull market too, but 29 bars. If you took this all the way down to this low, the lowest, the all-time low on this chart at all, it's a 47-month cycle. 49 months, 47 months. It like actually fits that range. What if this wasn't one bull cycle here and then another bull cycle? What if it was just one whole big bull cycle, right? And I mean, from a range perspective, that kind of makes sense, right? We've had 4 halvings now, 1, 2, 3, 4 bull cycles. Maybe that makes sense. All I'm trying to say is I don't think it's going to be 29 months. I do think it'd be closer to one of these months. If we take from the all-time high, nope, that was not the all-time high. to where 47 months would be. Let's just see where we're obviously not going to stop at 29 months, right? I guess actually that one was 28, the actual high, right? Would have been 28 months, to be completely fair. This would be the shortest bull market that we've ever seen with the least expansion away from the all-time high. I just don't think it's going to be there. If we also look at the RSI, right, every bull cycle that we've had, this is on a monthly perspective, we've interacted with this area in the RSI. Every bull cycle that we've had, that's actually a little bit too low. Let's fine-tune that a little bit. We haven't gotten there yet. We're close. We've actually found resistance right in this area before, right? Not last cycle, but the cycle before. We've done it before. I'm actually surprised that we're not in the overbought zone right now. It's kind of crazy, man. I would love to see this month recover. I'd love to see this month be a green month. We have 6 days left to do it, though. But we're only down 9%, which in 6 days, I think Bitcoin can definitely recover a good portion of that. But let's get back to the task at hand here. You know, we're not in areas, both in a price perspective, a time perspective, and the RSI perspective. We're not in areas that I would expect us to find resistance. 1 second, or to find the end of this bull cycle. 1 second, you guys. Let's assume 47 months at a minimum. That would put us in October of 2025, which is personally when I think that's like the exact month I've been calling for over a year now, for us to end this cycle is October. So we'll put a vertical line there, okay? October, 47 months. Oh, it's close, but not yet. Right there. And then 49 months for the longest that we've seen, that's December of 2025, so somewhere in here. So in a sense, based off of this like basic form of like time-based analysis, this is kind of the range that we have, right? It would be this box right here. It would be this little, between the white lines and the green lines, it would be between, at a minimum of about $176,000, right? I think it's supposed to be 178, I forget, maybe 173. I forget. Whatever the 1618 extension would be from this high to this low, that's the minimum price, and the minimum amount of time would be October of 2025. You know, it could take longer to see that price, or it could take longer to see this price, shorter to see this price, whatever. This little box is our given range so far. We're going to adjust this range. We're going to add more parameters to it to kind of enlarge it, but that's just the first method to get there, right? You saw how I did that. I took previous cycle high to the next cycle's high. That's how we got this this green box here. Okay. The next one we're going to do is we're going to take from the halving, the month of the halving, to the end of the bull cycle, the highest point of the bull cycle. Okay. So from the first halving, that was November of 2012, the end of November to be fair, but it was November. From November to the end of the bull cycle, that took 12 months. Okay. So a year. We had a year. Next one was June 9th, I wonder, or was it July? It was July 9th, I think, actually, 2016. July 9th. This time it was 17 months away from the cycle peak. The next halving that we had was May 11th, 2020, right here. And the cycle peak, double top, was here at 18 bars. 12 bars, 17 bars, 18 bars, getting longer each time. Not dramatically longer the last time, though. In this market, by the way, this last bull cycle was held back. It's the only one. I'm going to make everything kind of null and void there. It's the only one that had a double top. It's the only one that happened, you know, post-COVID, one of the like greatest economic catastrophes, just a huge, crazy catastrophe across the world. That we've seen, at least in my lifetime, right? Just a huge mishap in the world. Along with the Ukraine-Russia conflict, we had high inflation, quantitative tightening, and interest rates were going up. That's what that means, right? Federal spending was down, It wasn't a great time in the world economically, right? So this cycle, I think, we're in different times now. We're not in that same kind of scenario. You know, I know the Israel-Palestine thing's going on, but I'm not trying to belittle it by saying this. It's a big deal, and I'm with what Donald Trump said, which is that people on both sides are dying, and I would like to see that stop. That, you know, of course, nobody is encouraging this, and again, I'm not trying to belittle the conflict that's happening by what I'm about to say, but this is not a new conflict. This is something that's been going on for a while. I think the reason why the Ukraine-Russia conflict might have mattered is because it was a new thing, and not that was a new thing either, right? Kind of, but not like there's more. It wasn't something that just happened overnight, but the Palestine-Israel conflict for that region of the world has been going on since before anybody who will watch this video's life and their grandparents' life ever began, right? It's something that's been going on for a long time, right? So this isn't the way that the conflict has evolved. Yes, is new, but I don't know. I don't know if it's going to mean as much across the world as the Ukraine-Russia conflict potentially did. And everybody has their theories. I'm not trying to discount anybody's theories, but that's my personal take. Take it for what it is. You don't have to agree with it, but that's just me basically saying that I don't think this cycle is going to be affected as negatively as the last cycle was. So I do expect it to be stronger than the last cycle. Let's get back to what I was doing here, which was measuring how long from the halving to the cycle peak we were at for each cycle, 12, 17, 18. If we take that into consideration, our halving was here in April. Come on now, April there. 12 bars would put us in April of next year. So that's, the minimum. We're going to actually move this green bar out all the way back over here, so our range will broaden, right? That's our box now. And then 18 bars being the maximum would put us at, again, October of 2025. October number or that month specifically came up again. We're not going to move the line back because that would demean the point of the maximum, right? This was already a maximum on a separate parameter, so we'll keep it there. But another thing lining up within this range time-wise, we like to see that. That's good. Let's assume that we potentially see a longer cycle than we did last cycle, because in the spirit of 12, 17, 18, perhaps we do actually see a longer cycle. Maybe it's only 19 months. Maybe it's in November. Maybe it's 20 months, whatever. All this fits within the parameters that we have. So I'm not going to extend this one out, but I think that's something to take into consideration. So now that we've done those two, I want to make the case for, could the cycle end earlier than April 2025? And there's only one way of measuring this on the charts that I've come up with to get a earlier time frame than April. Okay, we're gonna do that now. So if we look at this for what it is, and I'll go over some kind of I think logical thinking. It makes sense to me. I'm sure it'll make sense to you too, but this is the low here, okay? This is the high here, 18 months. Okay, that took 18 months. This, undeniably, this part here was the length of this bull cycle, right? And that's how most people would measure it. Next, after that, from the end here, from the low point to the high point, that's how most people would measure it. It's 24 months, okay? That's the low to the high point. But the thing is this was actually not the bull market. Yes, from the low point to a high point, that's the measurement, but a lot of people would look at this and think that they're measuring the length of the bull market. But that, I wouldn't say this is when the bull market started. We had a little pop off our lows, but then we moved sideways for a long time. The bull market, in my opinion, didn't start till here. And if we look 17 months, 18 months, that's a little bit closer. I would say that this bull market, we didn't actually get going until here. This is a more proper measurement, in my opinion, of the length of the bull market, because this right here, this is not bull market. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months of moving sideways, half a year. Like that's not bull market behavior. We had a little pop off the cycle low. Don't get me wrong, but this was the initiation of the bull market, right? Just like here, right? And this is where I make logic out of that, is that this was not the beginning of the bull market. This was the low of the bear market, right? That was our first low. It was the end of the bear market, but it wasn't the beginning of the bull market. No, this was the beginning of the bull market. That was the low. And even that, I would argue, is not the beginning, because we still moved sideways one whole month after that. We had a 2.2% range of a month. It wasn't big at all. I would argue that the start of the bull market actually wasn't until this month. That's when the bull market started. Yes, this was our low to high, but the length of the bull market itself was about 26 months. 18 months, 17 months, 26 months. To me, this makes sense. I hope it makes sense to you guys. Same thing over here. This was not the beginning of the bull market. Rather, I would say this month was, right? We had this huge lull in the midst of it, but I personally don't feel comfortable saying that we didn't start the bull market until over here. I think, again, COVID, we had a bunch of different things going on in the world that kind of prevented us of seeing the normal growth that we do in crypto, and we can see that with the way that we finished. We had an abnormal top compared to what we've seen historically. I don't think we're going to get a double top this time. I think, if anything, it will be a lower high scenario. We'll get 2 attempts maybe, right? We'll have our blow off top, and then we'll come down. We'll have our lower high. If it's a double top, it'll be like that, but it won't be like that. I don't even know if it'll look like that, man. This might be a better representation, honestly, or maybe even something like this where it's a dramatically lower high. But most people would measure, myself included, that the end of the bull market was at the all-time high. right? But I've been thinking about this, right? If this was the end of the bear market, this first low here, the bull market didn't start over here, why would this be the end of the bull market? Right? It's where the all-time high happened. I can understand that, but really the end of the bull market happened here, right? That's when we stopped growing. Then we moved sideways and we double topped. Just like here wasn't the end of the bear market. The bear market ended here, but we started a crab market. Same thing here. So I'm going to say 26 months, pretty close together. 18 months, 17 months, that's the range that we have. So 17 months being the smallest amount of time that we've seen the bull market kicking off and getting going. I would say that this bull market, again, we had our low on this month, 2 months later, that's when it started in January of 2023. That's when I think the bull market started. If we were to do 17 months, that would put us at this month to end the cycle. Well, we're not at our high. We're definitely not at our high. If the cycle ended, if anything, it would be here at 14 months. So I'm going to throw that out. I don't think it's 14 months. I don't think that it's 17 months. And then again, 18 months would put us at next month. So I'm not assuming that we're going to be, I wouldn't assume that we're going to be ending the bull market next month either. So we're going to throw those out. They should be mentioned, but I personally don't think, again, if you're saying, well, we're at 17 months now, we've seen it before, that's the end of it. But look, we grew that whole 18 months. We grew that whole 17 months. Yes, we had a moment of pausing out, but the bull market didn't end there. It ended here. So if the bull market were to end, it wouldn't be this month. It would be here. And I definitely don't think that this bull market's only 14 months old, and now we're in the bear market. That doesn't make any sense, right? We had our bull market end before the halving happened. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm going to throw that out the window. That doesn't work. 26 months, because that's what we have here on these lengths. 26 months is our next length of time. Start of the bull market here. 26 months would put us right at, so close to this one. But 26 months actually takes us to March of 2025. Being that, let's call it July. It's the end of June right now, but let's just call it July. We have all of July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. That's 9 months. We have 9 months at the worst case scenario left in this bull cycle. 9 months, 9 whole months. Okay. We can do a lot of damage in 9 months, you guys, to the upside. Do you want me to show you what 9 months looks like? Ready? I'll show you what less than 9 months looks like from here to the top. How much is that? I can't even actually see that. 6 months. That's 6 months. Okay. And again, I drew that. You can see here. I'll delete this so you can kind of see it. And I adjusted our parameters to hit that 26 months, right? I can delete this too. We don't need all that. But this was 6 months of growth from a low point to a high point, not just in time, but I also have the height of that move, right? Yeah. So let's put that where we are here, okay? Because again, we have 9 months. Let's try to put it even a little lower than what that low point was. Let's try to go even lower. Let's see, like something like that. If we did this exact same move, which was at the end of the bull cycle last cycle, again, if you look at all these bull cycles, the strongest moves, that was the strongest month by far out of this whole cycle. That was I guess this time the strongest month was here. But you did have some red months. You actually had a couple red months and you even dropped. So for 3 months you were dilly-dallying. The strongest non-stop train was toward the end of the cycle. Same thing here, same thing here, same thing last cycle, even on the week cycle. It's the same story every time. That the best part of the bull cycle is the ending, post-halving ending of the cycle. We are about to see that. We are literally about to see that, right? That best part comes with this RSI getting toward this area, this white line up here, right? And we're not even there. We're making our run up there. The run up to this white line is where the best part is. We're about to see that now, I would think. And I say about to. It could take 9 months. It's going to take longer than half a year. That's for sure. But again, going back to this idea here of measuring this 6 months from this month here at the lowest point of that month to the highest point in that 6 month time frame, that would put us by the end of this year, December of 2024, at a price of $334,000. I do not think that's going to happen. Okay, I do think we're going to see prices higher than that. I don't think it's going to be by the end of this year. I do believe we'll be above 100,000. We could be above 200,000 by the. I don't know if we're going to be there, but I would think that we could actually be above 100K. Maybe not closing the year out, but at least interacting with prices above 100K. Maybe we'll be well above 100K. I don't know, but I do think. I'm just, illustrating this as a point that we do not need 9 months to see that kind of growth. In fact, during one of the weakest cycles, the weakest cycle we've ever seen, in a half year's time, we saw enough growth from the current price, which again, I took this low, I put it lower than that low would even be, would give us prices above 300K. Okay, so we've got more than enough time to do that. And I'm going all back to that idea of, if this is only a 26-month cycle in length, the same as this cycle here, the same as this cycle here, we have 9 months left because it could end in the month of March of 2025. People might hear that and be like, that's not a lot of time. 9 months is not a lot of time, but also it kind of is for crypto. It kind of is, but that can sound closer than it actually is, or it could sound like it's not enough room to grow. But as we've just seen, we don't need 9 months to see spectacular price growth for Bitcoin, to see multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars in price, right? We saw it during one of the weakest bull markets, the weakest bull market we've ever seen so far. Remains to be seen if we see it here. I definitely think that not only will we see the minimum price target at about 174K, I think that we will exceed that. I really do think we'll exceed that. But again, this is the minimum target. So I hope all that makes sense. There is one more thing I want to go over. I meant to throw it in earlier, but I kind of got sidetracked. And I'm trying to remember now. Oh yeah, what I wanted to do, because I've gotten the gist of this video down. But if this was the weakest market we've seen, from a low point to a high point, we grew 2,100% for that bull market. I'm assuming this cycle is going to be stronger, right? And the reason I'm measuring from low point to high point is because I'm going for the overall growth of the cycle. Sure, the cycle ended, the bull cycle ended here, but the overall growth from the low to the all-time high, this is what we got. So that's why I'm using this metric. I would assume that we're going to see more growth than we did the last cycle overall, right? The bull cycle might end at a lower growth. Maybe I don't actually think we're going to see a higher double top like that. So I would say the bull market probably will only end once we see more growth than this, is what I'm trying to say. More than a 22x. That's what we saw last cycle. So a 22x, just to put that in reference, that would be roughly, come on now, right there, kind of close, right? It's a little bit more, but right there. That'd be $345,000. I assume personally that this cycle will be stronger. It might not be dramatically stronger, right? If it goes up to that 500K area, 400K area, it's not going to be dramatically stronger than last cycle, but I do think it will be stronger. I think this cycle should have been stronger than it was, and the world economic atmosphere of this time was not prosperous enough for Bitcoin to see. The DXY, the dollar, the US dollar, actually gained immense strength during the end of this bull cycle, which we've never seen before, right? We've never, in a bull cycle, not in the finale, not at the end of the bull cycle, have we ever seen the DXY going into an expansion phase, into a growth phase. The DXY started expanding at the end of this bull cycle. I think we were robbed. So in that sense, I'm trying to say this cycle should have been stronger than it was, in which case, if we were to go to prices above 400K this cycle, it would be as it should be, that each cycle is we're getting those diminishing returns. But I think this cycle, we actually will see a stronger cycle than the last cycle. It'll throw off all those people who are assuming diminishing returns are going to come in. But if you think about like and I say what it should have done, who's to say that it should have done this or should have done that? We'll never know, right? But I do think for the times that Bitcoin was in, we were kind of up against a wall here. We weren't in the right environment to see this phenomenal end to the rally. I think how we moved sideways here, I think we were supposed to move up, but just things in the world were not making sense for that kind of growth. I do think they are now. I think that it will only continue to be proven true as we get closer to election season. And we're in election season now, but as we get closer to 2025 is what I should say, it'll only be proven more and more that the world economic environment is easing up on us, right? We are seeing, and I feel like that's not the right phrase, world economic environment. There's got to be a better term for that. But I very much do believe we're going to see a stronger cycle than last cycle, and that would agree with everything else that I've been saying, which is that prices will not only break 173K, we will well past that. We will go well past that. So like double that or more. I really do personally think that the 2272 will be achieved this cycle. I think we were robbed of it last cycle, but I don't think we're going to be robbed of it this cycle. And that would give us a 462,000 price. I personally do think that not only are we going to achieve this box up here, but we're going to hit the upper limits of it. I don't know if it's going to end as late as January 2026 personally. That's not my expectation. But somewhere toward the end of this, I'm thinking this top right corner of this box is where we're going to go personally. So I hope that all makes sense. I hope you liked the video. If you did, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.